Hello to the pessimistic, optimistic, and everyone in between. My name is Connor Philippi, and welcome back to the Minnesotan Sports Podcast, and welcome to the 2023-2024 NFL year-end awards ceremony. I guess I never really thought about what I was going to call it, but I'm going to be doing my very own awards ceremony. This is obviously the much better version of the awards ceremony because I am the one doing it. Usually they do the NFL honors where they go through all the different categories and they pick the player that they think is best deserving of it, like the Grammys. And so I'm going to go through and I'm going to give my own picks for all of these. And this is more my own opinion based off of what I saw this season. It's not me trying to predict what it will be, because I don't think that this will be the case for some of these. And I do honestly, I'll explain a little bit as I go, but a couple of these I have kind of a different idea of what I feel like the criteria should be for this. Especially the MVP is going to be the main difference in this. We're going to start out with the big one. We're going to start out with MVP, and I'll explain this. I want to base this personally. I'm going to change the rules, and I'm going to base my personal MVP off of just the player that had the biggest impact on their team this season. I don't like the way that they do MVP. I wish they would just call it quarterback of the year at this point, because basically only quarterbacks win it unless you have basically a record-breaking year in some way, like the best season a player in your respective position has ever had. Otherwise, it's going to always go to a quarterback. So this, I went into this on completely even ground. The player that I think all around had the best impact on their team. So it's a little bit different. And for that category, drumroll please, I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey. And I think this is the player that is going to end up being the offensive player of the year. But because I have my different criteria, I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey for this title. And I mean, it goes without saying, Christian McCaffrey is one of the only running backs in this entire league that is legitimately worth paying a good sum of money, because he is just so much more than a running back. He gets the job done rushing and receiving. He averaged 5.4 yards per carry, which for the amount of volume he had, there's plenty of those running backs. He's technically not, in the top 10 even for yards per carry, but that doesn't factor in the fact that there's some running backs that will run twice and then run back out. Christian McCaffrey is an every down back, and to have that much volume and still have that many yards per attempt is just unbelievable. 1,459 rushing, for 1,459 yards on 272 rushing attempts, ran for 14 touchdowns, and that doesn't even include what he did in the running game. He is transcendent as a player, the best running back by far in this league, and one of the players where if he was not on this 49ers team, it would be a completely different team. And that's why I think he is deserving of this award. And no other player with my criteria, it really even comes close to getting this honor. So we'll move on now here to the offensive player of the year. And this goes to a wide receiver in my book. And it's got to be Tyreek Hill. I mean, look at what he did this season, and he had, again, another player that has another transcendent year, 1,799 total yards. He honestly, in my opinion, would have broken the all-time single-season record if he had gotten his full games in. I mean, that was didn't he miss 2 or 3 games this season? I can't even remember. Even if it was only 2, that's insane to have 1,800 yards and not even play a full season. That's on 119 receptions and on 171 targets. And he's catching from Tua, who, I mean, he is definitely a top quarterback in the league, but there's a lot of wide receivers for other teams that have caught from even better quarterbacks this season. It doesn't matter who he catches the ball from, he's still just as good. I mean, we saw the numbers are not that different between Patrick Mahomes throwing to him and Tua throwing to him. And it's just the mark of an incredible player that always finds ways to get open. And so I think he's completely deserving of Offensive Player of the Year. Moving on here to Defensive Player of the Year, there are a couple good options for this one. I personally had to go with Myles Garrett for this position. Myles Garrett, even when he doesn't have a defenseless player's helmet in his hands, I'm still not going to let that go. But completely bias aside, he is the most intimidating edge rusher in the entire league. He went for 14 sacks in the regular season. His pressure rate is insane. I mean, he did have the benefit of being on one of the better defenses in general in the league, but when you're on that good of a defense and you still elevate it to such a high degree, that is the mark of a true player, and had a rough game against the Texans, but I mean, the entire team did, so you can't really put that against. And technically, this is supposed to be regular season type awards. You usually don't award these awards to players based on how they played in the postseason. At least that's not how they do it in the NFL honors. But either way, he had such a transcendent year, and I think one of these years in the future, even with him getting a little bit older here, he's probably going to break a sack record before long. The only reason he hasn't done it or didn't do it this season is because there's so many other guys that are good on that Cleveland defensive line that were taking some of those opportunities away. But yeah, Myles Garrett, completely deserving of that award. Now for probably the most obvious one, I don't think there's anyone that can debate anything other than this, but the Offensive Rookie of the Year is CJ Stroud. I mean, this guy, he had the type of career or the type of year that honestly could be deserving of MVP, just in general, if you're basing it off of quarterbacks like they usually do. I mean, you look at the numbers that he put up, not 319 completions on 499 attempts, a completion percentage of 63.9, which for any player is good, but especially a rookie, 4,108 yards, and 23 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions in his rookie season. Just incredible. His average rating, 100.8, and in the postseason, his average was 109.3. Not to mention, I mean, you can look at the stats all you want, and the stats themselves are impressive, but you also look at the fact that he was on a team that just last season was horrible. And then you saw, obviously, the defense had a lot to do with it, but CJ Stroud was the leader in completely turning around this franchise, and to do that as a rookie QB is very, very impressive. So if you throw that onto everything else, it's just an incredible year for CJ Stroud. He's going to be an incredible talent, and I can't wait to see him play for years to come, because it feels like this is only the beginning for him and for the Texans. And it's good to see that organization, after all the stuff they went through, it looks like they're finally starting to turn themselves around. They've got new everything, kind of cleaned out shop, and are starting out fresh after all those situations, and it looks like they're back into the swing of things. Now, going into the Defensive Rookie of the Year, Will Anderson Jr. Now, Jalen Carter easily could be the same pick. The main reason why I'm picking Will Anderson Jr. is the reason I just mentioned, the fact that he was going on to a Texans team that was not poised for success. Jalen Carter definitely did elevate his team in the same way, but Will Anderson was part of taking a team that had 4 or 5 wins last season all the way to the divisional round this year. And he did pretty much everything he could have. He had 29 tackles, 7 sacks, and his pressure rate, again, very incredible. And so I don't know if there's, again, this is a toss-up between him and Jalen Carter, but Will Anderson was an incredible talent, and just kind of the team he was on and what he was able to accomplish with them is the reason why I am picking him for this version of the award. And then we've got, it's just a slew of Texans here, because for the Coach of the Year, I have DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans, now, there are other coaches I think are deserving of this. I think the person that a lot of people would say got snubbed with this was Kevin Stefanski, which I completely understand that. Kevin Stefanski took a Browns team, last year they had a very frustrating year. They went through a lot of injury struggles, a lot of different QBs, but I just think that the turnaround wasn't nearly as jarring on the defensive side for Stefanski. I think that he had the benefit of a very good defense, and I'm not saying that means that he got carried and that he does not deserve it at all. Like, he deserves it. It's just DeMeco Ryans, in my opinion, deserves it just the slightest bit more. And the reason why is because of the reasons I was just mentioning with the other two that I just said, CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr., is that DeMeco Ryans took a Texans team where the absolute top that I was expecting this Texans team to achieve this year was to maybe become a 7-win or 8-win team and be kind of that sneaky team like the Lions were last year, where they just were, maybe they actually might sneak in this year. Oh wait, they didn't quite do it, but they might next year. That was the team I expected to see from the Texans. DeMeco Ryans took this team, and yes, he got some incredible talent from CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr., but that doesn't change the fact that he took a team that was hardly anything last year. It was an afterthought last year, and was expected to be pretty much an afterthought this year too. And he transformed them overnight. And an incredible showing by him, getting a team not just to the playoffs 1 year removed from that, but to make it around in the playoffs and completely dismantle one of the better defenses in the league. I think DeMeco Ryans is completely deserving of that award. The final award we have here is Comeback Player of the Year. Now, I have two for this one because there's one very obvious one and then one that I want to base off of kind of more playing merit, because obviously the one that deserves to be in there is Damar Hamlin. It does not matter how often he was on the field. It does not matter what he was able to accomplish on the field. The fact that he ran onto the field this season after what happened last year is it's a miracle. It's nothing short of incredible and unbelievable. And people want to say, oh, but he didn't even play, blah, 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 blah. He is an incredible story no matter what he even accomplishes the rest of his career. And so he is completely deserving of getting the award this year. I cannot imagine anyone else would this season. And so that's definitely deserving. But if we're basing it off of, a player that was not expected to perform the way he did and completely outperformed, and, the way the award is usually presented, I would go with Joe Flacco for this one. Now, there's a lot of other players that could potentially be viewed for this. For me, even with the way Joe Flacco faltered in the second or the first round of the playoffs, the entire team kind of fell apart, so you can't blame it on just him. You look at Joe Flacco, he was legitimately on his couch in the offseason last year. He was brought on basically mid-season, one of the oldest quarterbacks in the league, immediately forced to start playing. I mean, it's just unbelievable him accomplishing what he did, if you really think about the odds of that. Coming in, like, I can only imagine he was still practicing, and I imagine he was hoping he'd get back onto the field. Like, you don't just, sit on the couch all off season eating chips and then get a call and go right onto the field. Like, obviously, there was something that he was trying to work towards still playing and all that. It doesn't change the fact that the dude was, whatever age he is, 39, 40. It's just crazy. And Joe Flacco is definitely deserving of the Comeback Player of the Year award too. Obviously, at the actual NFL honors, I fully expect them to hand this trophy to Damar Hamlin, and rightly so. And that wraps up the awards that I'm going to be giving away tonight. And so I am going to see if any of these end up coming true. I know the Christian McCaffrey one won't, because they are going to give that to a QB. They'll probably give this one to Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. And so I'm guessing Patrick Mahomes. It's just probably the way it's going to go. Josh Allen probably in the running for it as well, but we'll see what happens. The rest of these, I think Christian McCaffrey will win Offensive Player of the Year. I think I'm right about Myles Garrett, CJ Stroud. I do think they're going to give Defensive Rookie of the Year to Jalen Carter, which is completely deserving too. I just decided Will Anderson. And then, I don't know, D'Amico Ryans or Kevin Stefanski, I'm interested to see what they do there, because I feel like it really could go either way there too. And obviously Damar Hamlin will win Comeback Player of the Year. And there's a few other categories like Assistant Coach and Play of the Year and all that stuff that are also going to be given away. So it should be an interesting show to watch. But thanks so much for watching this show, and also stay tuned in the next 2 days for Super Bowl coverage here on this channel. I'm also going to be doing, my Raw reaction, a full Super Bowl recap after that as well. And then stay tuned, I'm going to be doing full breakdowns of every single team's season, which should be really interesting, and roll our way into the off season, which is, it's going to be a long, hard off season just like it always is. But what can you do about it? We had a long 4 or 5 months of NFL action, and we got to be smile because it happened, don't cry because it's over. So that's it. Thanks so much for watching this one. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the flip side.